You're listening on AM 1240 and 92.7 FM Nooga Radio. I am Cindy. I am your host. And Cindy's choice is to make a positive impact in our community. And I have a wonderful guest with that same on board with me today. But first, a quick shout out to our sponsors. Cindy's choice for an awesome business advisor is Nova Advisors. Nova Advisors is a contingency-based business service. They can bring a variety of strategies to reclaim or save business operational costs with no upfront fees and without requiring you to change vendors. Operational changes. That is an awesome service. You can check them out at www.novaadvisors.us. novaadvisors.us. And of course, Cindy's choice for a great catering option is Chicken Salad Chick. We are so excited. There's 2 great locations already, but now there's a 3rd location launching at the Erlanger Mall. We're so excited about that. Congratulations, Josh Patton. You are just such a contributor to our community. And you can check out Chicken Salad Chick at chickensaladchickchattanooga.com. Chicken Salad Chick Chattanooga.com. And there is something for everyone at Chicken Salad Chick. And now let's jump in. I have with me today Stefanie Crowe, who is Director of Wealth, Knowledge, and Happiness at Stonebridge Asset Management, LLC. Love that role that you play over there. Hi, Stefanie. How are you?
Good morning, Cindy. Thanks for having me. I'm great. And thank you for loving that title. It obviously is a bit creative and out there.
Yes.
But there's some serious stuff behind it. So
Exactly. And I get that. And that's a lot why I'm glad that you're not afraid as a female to put happiness out there. Because that's important for all of us. It's not just us girls that are out there being emotional, quotation marks. If you're on the radio, you can't see me making quotation marks, but it's a really important part of the mix. And I want to get into that more, but first I want to find out a little bit more about Stefanie. So Stefanie, tell me, what is your background? Are you from Chattanooga?
That I'm not from Chattanooga, but I moved here in 1991. So I'll probably die in Chattanooga and not say that I'm from here.
There you go. I'd say I'm originally from Texas. I was introduced to Chattanooga in 88. Well, we came here as a child when I lived in Florida, but we were relocated here in the late 80s. I've left and come back. This is my 3rd time back. So I'm Chattanooga by choice is how I like to put it.
I'm raising 2 daughters here and I married a native. And so
there you go.
I just love the city, and having arrived, over 20 years ago to see the Renaissance, something captured my attention. I wanted to stay, and I've absolutely been rewarded. It's such a dynamic city.
Yes, you got here right at that little window when things were turning around. And it's the same with me. But both my babies were born here. I raised both my children here. Like home. It's being from Texas, there's this kind of Texas-Tennessee bond anyway, thanks to the Alamo. So I'm either in Tennessee missing Texas or Texas missing Tennessee.
Well, your love of the community, I think, is what makes Chattanooga special, that it was strong community leadership, public, private individuals that had the vision and the wherewithal to really link arms.
Yes.
And make it happen. So what you're doing, focusing on community, I think is also Chattanooga's story.
Yes, it is. That is so Chattanooga. And but there's still so many people, and of course there's no time to get all this, but I share a little bit about my story on here. And I was raised in a lot of dysfunction and lack of relationship. I did not understand community. And so that's why it's like I'm very passionate and excited when I meet you, that really stirs my passion and excitement, because I feel the same thing in you. You get it. The value and contributing to the whole community, and all of us thriving together is so much more valuable.
And Cindy, that's something probably for another time. I've been asked to present multiple times to what I call our emerging leaders to talk about the power of giving and what community service has done for me, the return on that investment. And that is just a whole other rich narrative.
Yes. And I tell you, we'll have a whole show about that as a topic, because you hear a lot about givers gain. but there are still a lot of people out there giving to gain. And that's not how it works. If you really get out there and focus on what you can contribute, what you can give, what people can benefit from you, if you just strictly focus on that, you do gain. But if you're focused on the gain.
So I like to tie in that my community work trained me as a leader and now as an entrepreneur. And so corporations can give you a lot of training, but sometimes they like to put you in a box.
Yes.
They need a certain set of skills, and they focus you and narrow, your attention and your time. And so my community work was a way for me to explore gifts and potentials, try new things. I like to say that it's amazing what people will let you do for free.
Yes.
And all of that free,
Well put.
all of that free stuff was basically side jobs that just gave me experience and exposure and have absolutely teed me up for this next chapter.
Yes, yes. And a lot what I talk about on here for the small businesses that are listening is when you contribute to the community, when you're out there giving your free time, you're demonstrating who you are as a business person. When you're on that committee or serving on that board, you're demonstrating how you conduct business. So people are going to want to work for you, not just, oh, he's a giver, isn't that nice? No, you're demonstrating who you are and how you handle business. And that's a lot what brings the business to you.
My richest client experiences have been when our values align. And
yes.
I think when you're serving, you're demonstrating that you're not just talk, your behaviors, your actions, how you're investing yourself. I mean, you're making a very significant statement, and hopefully you're drawing like-minded people to you. And that's the strongest and actually most fun kind of business there is.
Yes. And I hear some of the, because I was there before, I hear people out there say, how can I do that? I'm just trying to make a living. I have to focus on me. I have to make a living. But if you keep getting this understanding that Stefanie and I are sharing from our personal experience in this, you will get it, and it will ease so much stress on your life, and things will start to follow. It won't be so hard. Things will start to fall together for you, because this is how it's truly meant to be. This is how the most productive way for us to operate as a community. But if you're out there on the sidelines by yourself because you're not understanding this concept, you're missing out on so much, and you've got so much more added to your life that's negative, that is holding you from your goals, is keeping you from your vision.
So the choice of my title was so intentional and a bit bold and risky, but I was sending a signal that I'm most rewarded when I'm working with people that are looking at similar concepts about living well, being productive. I've spent over 20 years in the field. And if you just want to talk about money, we can do that. It's very technical. It can be very sterile. But honestly, I've seen people amass huge sums of money and still have a void, and still be a bit feeling like they're not enough. They, this amount of money isn't enough. They've got to be worth that amount of money. And if you always live your mindset, you're never going to enjoy the rewards of what you've done well. And so in this next chapter, I want to talk about being prudent, building wealth, but along the way, appreciating the journey and not just always moving your carrot, because that's insanity.
And it's always about balance. And for true success, you need it all there. Just financial wealth alone, there's lots of kinds of prosperity, lots of kinds of wealth. And you need a good balance of all of it to be truly successful. And again, enjoy. You could be even more financially successful in that way. And I love that, because some people are afraid to talk about money. They're afraid to talk about wealth and wanting wealth. I want wealth.
And women especially.
Yes.
Women especially are just not invited. It's not considered feminine. Talk about it more freely. Now I'll say the men like to talk about the losses or the lessons learned.
Right.
But especially women, if we can't talk about it, how are we going to learn about it? How are we going to be empowered? How are we going to do better?
Exactly. And how are we going to help others do better without acquiring the wealth and the knowledge and the happiness? So people see, oh my goodness, they have that. I can have that too.
Absolutely.
And I just love it. I think it's very brave. And I love that. I'm big on brave, because we know as entrepreneurs, you've got to make brave, bold moves, and not just one time. Brave, bold move helps you make that next bigger, brave, bold move. And
So
it's a constant process.
there's a couple things that are so personal about this, what I call aspirational title. And on one level, it's me pulling in my undergrad studies of anthropology and pre-med and thinking about behavioral science and things that are happening as humans make decisions and how they decide to live their lives. Those incremental things can completely either power or hurt your success and wealth creation.
Yes.
So that's one component of it. There's actually science around this. But the other component is my own personal experience of driving hard in corporate America, getting some wonderful assignments, tremendous experience. But at one point, realizing that as a mother, as an executive, as somebody who was well compensated and successful on so many fronts, I was waking up in, a kind of a deficit. Like my energy was depleted. I felt like my health was eroding. The constant pace and the stress and the hurry and the sense of, accomplishment
Yes.
was draining me. And I had a moment of thinking, why does successful feel so rough? And at that point, I decided I need to take matters back into my own hands and not judge success by income or net worth or activity level. Like to really start thinking about, if you run at that pace, you'll burn and crash. And
Yes.
so how do you find that sustainable level of happy, productive, successful, but where you feel like it's a marathon and it's not a sprint.
Right. And that's my story too, where I was achieving what most people would view as success. And I was embarrassed because inside I was like, is this it? And it confused me because I wasn't understanding this is scary. If this is what we're supposed to achieve and I'm here and it's this empty, where do I go now?
It's what we're taught.
Yeah.
That's what we're taught.
And it's been quite the process for me to get that understanding and learn that. Now let's jump back. I want to get focused back on your background a little bit because you mentioned, your corporate background.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're in more of an entrepreneur role. Is that correct?
Yes. So after almost 25 years in corporate roles, big national banks, small boutique, local banks, I had a sense that my vision, my passion was creative and probably bigger than any one corporate role. And what you find when you're working with an organization is you've got to serve that organization's needs. And that can be very rewarding. But at some point, and I think every entrepreneur will feel this, there's a sense of discontent, or I might be missing something, or I may be capable of more. And you realize that you need to you just need to fly. You need to go and try your thing and play your way. And that's not a negative. That's actually a part of our evolution.
Yes.
Is to lean into that, accept that tension, to say, I'm not sure playing in this construct is working for me. Now let me go create my own thing. And I love when I hear entrepreneurs say what that tension point was that spurred them to make the leap.
Yes. And that's what I'm trying to utilize this platform for, is to bring enough guests on that people can relate to and enough stories to make them understand that they're not the only ones. All my adult life, I've heard that 10% of the population are entrepreneurial. And just in recent years, and I think Chattanooga's contributed a lot to that this may just be in our area, it's more up like 12, 14%. But here's the thing, 40 to 45% that are capable and want to be entrepreneurial. And the millennium realm, it exceeds 50% because they've heard the horror stories and seen what happens when you commit to a 30-year career and get pushed out early, or that company goes bankrupt, or whatever horror story falls into place there. So there are a lot of people listening, a lot of people out there who are contemplating entrepreneurship and they don't know how to begin. And with Cindy's choice, and we'll talk about this another time, that's what I'm trying to make people interested. It's very easy at a basic level. If you know how to do something very good, you can outsource your bookkeeping, outsource your legal, and outsource your marketing, you're in business. If it's a service, there may be an investment. There's some investment to some degree, especially if you have a product. But it really isn't that hard. I'm a starter. I've been a serial entrepreneur. Now it's different. I'm starting something a lot bigger than me, and it takes a whole different process that I'm learning a lot through people like Stefanie Crowe.
And there are a lot of providers out there who get excited about serving the startup community. Of course,
Yes.
Of course, big corporate clients are hugely profitable, and everybody wants those. But what I love about Chattanooga is there are some key firms that have been very vocal about investing in the startup ecosystem and realizing that this is an investment in their future. And they use it a bit as training ground for their younger associates.
Yes.
And they realize that this if they can kind of simplify their offering at a very affordable rate, they might bring on some future rock stars that
Yes.
could be huge clients one day. And that Chattanooga is so generous of spirit that businesses say, let's invest in these little companies that might not be big money makers today, but wow, let's get them in the door early and see where they can go.
Yes. And I've had that kind of support. I've had some big corporate businesses spend quite a bit of time with me because they see my vision. And they said, Cindy, we know it's not, they're real straight with you. Cindy, we know it's not a quick ROI with you. We know that, but we believe in what you're doing. And we want to take this time and, at least steer you to this next step. And I'm like, wow, thank you. I understand that. It's so big deal. They gave you some advice. No, it is for these corporates, they to slow down and take that time. They are all about, they understand the value of time. And I understand the value of time. And that's an incredible culture that we have here. But people need to know how to plug into that culture.
They do. And they also need to not underestimate the power of being nimble. When I came out of a corporate role, I very intentionally chose, a small team, not a startup, but they had been in business less than 5 years. So the platform was built and now they are ready to drive. And our skills complement. So very much, a team approach. But what's powerful about that is I knew that if I joined a larger, mature organization, it wouldn't have been entrepreneurial. And they would be dedicated to the way they've done business for a long time.
Exactly.
And so it's so much fun to see entrepreneurs move into space. These are people with a lot of experience typically, but they're always looking to retool and try something new, recreate, reinvent. And big organizations don't do that very well.
Right. Right. And again, too, and we're not meaning to sound negative about corporation at all. That is how they operate, and they are successful operating that way. And there is so much to benefit from and learn. The best way to be a good leader is be a good follower. And corporations groom some really great leaders because they followed well and they did fit in those boxes for the period of time that they needed to fit.
What I want to tag onto that and say that when I talk to corporations, I like to encourage them to engage in the startup community because I know their challenges. A lot of times they're publicly held, so they have earnings, numbers they've got to meet quarterly. They're running a big organization, and so the best thing they can do is to invest and spend time with the startup community. It's almost like creating a strategic partnership with a very innovative subset and let these big corporations with resources, visibility, and connections actually engage and partner with the startup community.
Yes.
And I think that is powerful for Chattanooga, and that's happening.
Yes, it's incredible. And again, like you, me being here when, like I asked people where they're from, when I came here in 88, I mean, I was such an alien being from Texas. Everybody was from here. And it's fun now because coming from like Dallas, Texas and Houston, Texas, I'm used to all the diversity and people being from, it's hard to meet someone that's from the area because the people have, it's a hub and people have come so far. So it's fun now to ask in Chattanooga, where are you from? It's so interesting to see all the people that are coming here from all over the country, a lot because of the innovation hub that we are. But I also host a Nooga Radio outdoors show because we are such an outdoor hub. And it's so interesting, but it all, that feeds our economy and the innovation just as much so as the innovation feeds that. So it's really fun. There's just so many levels that that it affects, and so many topics, Stefanie, that you and I can just go to town on. But we've got a little bit of time left, and I want to get back on. Tell me about your corporate background. Tell me about you. What's your background?
So 13 years for a big national bank, focusing on the trust and wealth arena. I've got private banking experience, so helped families think about estates, trusts, investments, giving, kind of charity. Once we succeed, how do we give back? But then the also fun thing for me was financing big toys like, jets and yachts and art. And so, it was fun to kind of like live vicariously and fund.
Oh, yes.
Kind of fun stuff. I had that experience. I joined a startup bank just ahead of the financial crisis, which was the perfect time to go small because the financial crisis just crippled the banking industry. And here I was in a startup that was well capitalized, very strong. So we weren't immune to the crisis, but we absolutely didn't hit the full, the pain of clients having trouble paying back loans. Like we were such a new player at that time. It gave us an advantage. The advantage, we played very well. So we grew fast, we built out, and we ended up selling the company within 8 years. For a span of time, I held 3 different jobs. So it was this wonderful startup experience of run. You never know. Like I talk about having 5 different business cards. Like, today, what do you need me to be? And I'll go do that. And where do you want me to sit? I'll go sit there. And who do I need to talk to? Like, I'll handle that. So I realized that I'm very much a generalist and a bit ADHD, and the startup environment fed that to me.
Yes.
And I loved it. And I just don't ever want to be boxed in again.
Yes. And I love that. And that's a lot why I'm excited to hang out with Stefanie, because that's a lot. She encourages the dumb questions and the crazy ideas. And that's what I relate to. I have lots of dumb questions. I'm very inquisitive. I want to know what I don't know. I don't claim to be the expert on very much. I'm expert on very little, and that's what I focus on. And there are crazy ideas out there that normally the crazy ideas are the ones, though, that culminate into the world-changing ideas. So they all need to be fed and listened to.
Cindy, I want to tag on that because
we've got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
In innovation, having a novice mindset is so key, and always coming with a fresh mind, which is hard when you're experienced and seasoned. So I encourage people to almost have an immigrant mindset when they're approaching a situation.
Yes. And thank you so much, Stefanie. There is just so much more. We'll have Stefanie on back really quick so we can continue. She's involved in so much more and has so much vast knowledge to share with us. I just want to thank you for joining us for the first half of the Cindy's Choice Show. And we'll be back with Kim Clarkson. Thank you.